Hello and welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast. My next guest is the international speaker and author of 4 best-selling sales books: Selling to Big Companies, Snap Selling, Agile Selling, and More Sales, Less Time. With over 250,000 followers, LinkedIn named Jill as the #1 business-to-business sales expert in 2019. And Salesforce recently selected her as one of 7, I think she should be #1, one of 7 influencers of the 21st century. It really is my honor to welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Jill Konrath.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to be here with you today.
I have to tell you, Jill, this is coming to the end of my first year of podcasts, and I ask a question at the end. Who is your hero or shiro? Jill Konrath. Then ask again, who's your hero? Jill Konrath. And I know about you, but really you have such a following of not only female, but male admirers because of all of the support that you have given women in sales over the years. And I said to you, I'm going to be gushing because really it is an honor, the legacy that you're leaving behind, because literally people are constantly naming you as their shiro. So thank you for being on this podcast with me today.
Thank you. And it's just really fun to hear that.
Well, it's nice when, you know, all of your work is appreciated, isn't it?
It is. But I have to tell you, you know, in terms of leaving a legacy, probably 20 years ago, I looked around and I saw that all the sales experts out there were bald white men, you know, and I kept thinking, I'm in sales, I'm a woman, I'm so tired of seeing, you know, all these bald white men tell me how to sell. Somebody's got to do something about it. And I kept looking for these other women to do something.
Yeah.
And one day I went, oh my goodness. I'm the one who's most bothered by it. Apparently got to be me who steps up and becomes visible out there.
Yeah.
So I did.
Yeah, you certainly did. You certainly did. Now, these are quite challenging times that we're all experiencing. But I know we've been through other recessions before. My working life is over 30 years. So, you know, there's quite a few that I've seen. I mean, this is different, but from your point of view, what is your experience? How do people ride out this pandemic and how can they come out strong?
Well, yeah, that's a big question. How can you come out strong? I think you really have to do a couple things. I mean, if I think about it, number one, you have to learn how to control your fear. And that may sound weird, but the minute you go into fear mode, which can happen because nobody's buying anything, you can't get out and see people the way that you used to, or have meetings and everything's different. I mean, fear can overtake you, and fear is the emotion that stops your brain from actually working and gives you fewer options in terms of what could be done. So we really need to grab a hold of our fear and take a look at what is it that we can do to calm ourselves down. I mean, we literally have to calm ourselves down. You can do it, hang in there. And then we need to open ourselves up to learning new skills. And a lot of people have been doing the same old for a long time. And it's worked for a while. But what happens when you run into a recessionary period is being average is no longer enough, and everybody has to figure out a way to step up their game. So you literally have to turn yourself into a learner and somebody who is focused on improving all sorts of different aspects of your sales process. And you need to actually take a look at it from the front end and say, where am I not doing well? Where am I running into resistance? I mean, if nobody's answering your emails, then probably you need to look at your emails. If nobody's, you know, wanting to jump on a Zoom call with you, then you might want to look at how you're even positioning what you're doing, if it sounds like it's worthwhile from their perspective. And then learning how to be comfortable on Zoom and not sitting with, you know, uptight and people look up at your nose and the fan behind you is there. It's like, there's so much that has to be learned, but you really need to become very cognizant of people's reaction to everything that you're doing. And then you need to dig in and go online and find books, resources, videos, anything you can find that'll teach you how to do things better. And you need to experiment. I mean, it's a whole new time.
It's interesting what you're saying is because it's about looking at yourself in order to appeal to your customers. So often people will say, and I've heard this a lot, you need to be more empathetic. But that isn't actually changing your mindset, your processes and all of that. It's just adding a little layer on top. And what you seem to be saying is you really need to go a lot deeper.
You really actually do need to take a look at everything you're doing. I remember when I first moved into a sales leadership role, and I was at Xerox at the time, and one of the things that they said to us is that what you'll notice is that what our research shows is that only 1 out of 7 salespeople takes a serious look at what happens in their sales calls and evaluates their calls afterward for what they do well, what worked, what was highly effective, where they ran into problems, and what they could change. And that those people who are willing to look at all of that and be brutally honest with themselves are the ones who discover better ways and succeed, because they're constantly in an evaluation testing mode in terms of what can I do better? How can I be more effective? I mean, I remember myself as a salesperson thinking, how can I make fewer calls? How can I make fewer calls but have them more effective? Isn't that an interesting concept, fewer?
Yeah. It's interesting that a lot of the industry is about, or traditional in sales industry is about doing more, more quota, more calls, more close and all of that. And actually, if you do the reverse of that, less of that, because you're just bombarding people with information. If you refine who is your target audience more closely and really just hit the nail on the head, you're more likely to get, succeed, rather than spreading yourself and doing the kind of scattergun effect.
Right. You significantly enhance your chances of success, not even just a little bit, but you learn who they are and what their issues and concerns are. You become very focused on what are they currently doing today that is without your solution, without your service, or without your products or technology. What are they doing without it? Well, they're actually getting their work done, but there is some cost of doing business the way they're doing it. And there's some inefficiencies, and there's maybe some opportunities that they're missing. So the more familiar you become with your customers, the greater your success rate is, because you will speak their language, you will focus on what matters to them, you will ask questions that are highly relevant, and it'll be interesting to them. But our whole goal should be to increase our effectiveness, which means we always have to be learners.
Yeah. So what about sales leader? What should be their goals now? What activities should they be focusing on?
Let me go back to the first thing we talked about, fear. I mean, you have people who are, your sales team is afraid. They're afraid they're not going to make their quota. They're afraid that if they don't make their numbers, that they will be terminated, that they won't have enough money to feed themselves, pay for their rent, whatever it is. I mean, it's a scary time. So what I'm seeing top sales leaders doing right now is really focusing on their culture and their people, and being more in touch with their people on a regular basis, but actually talking human talk with them, as opposed to saying, let's talk about your numbers and where you are, and let's, how many calls did you make last week, and, back to that, but really focusing on Janice. So tell me about, how you doing right now? How are you doing? I'm interested in you as a human being, because we want you to be successful. How can I help you? What can I do to give you, work with you on some strategies to help you advance some of these calls, to help you create more opportunities? And so I think the best sales leaders are very focused on helping their people improve what they're doing, and have, and very conscious of the culture around them, that even though they may not be in the same office right now, which nobody is, and they're Zooming, but they're very concerned and catching up as a human being and focusing on, you know, we're all in this together. We're here to help you. The whole team is here to help you. Let's work together.
Is sales, often you'll get sales leaders that have come up the rank from sales manager and they're real hunters. They're extremely successful. Then they become a leader of a team. And
Yes.
now you're asking them to be people focused. And you think that, well, if they've really come up and been focused on the numbers, now they have to do the same work, but add on that additional layer, that additional switch to really focusing on their team, not hammering them on the head for the numbers. How can they do that? Because it's not something that's been a requirement in the past.
No, I know it's not. And they need to realize that it's part of being successful and that they're in a different job right now, you know, and it does require different things. I know when I used to work with reps, and this is kind of a funny thing, you could see the ones who were the aggressive ones. They would actually be in meetings with their customers, and I'm going to do it on Zoom with you right now, but you know, the customer, you know, they'd say, do you have any problems? And the customer would say, well, yeah, you know, we're a little frustrated with this. And they'd lean forward. I mean, they'd be right in the customer's face. And I literally mean, they'd lean forward and they'd pull out a brochure and, you know, be all over them. And the result of this was the prospect would, whoa, lean way back and put up barriers in front of them. And so I used to have to tell my salespeople who were doing that, watch your body. If you're leaning forward and so intense with your people, you are scaring them away. So what I think a sales leader has to do is lean back.
Yeah.
Lean back and focus on the human being in front of them or her to see what could make them better. I mean, if you don't do that, you are going to ruin things for yourself too. So, you know, this is a skill that you have to develop, and it's not like being oily and, you know, smarmy. You know, how are you doing? How are you doing? You know, and okay, I got that question asked. Now let's get on to the talk. You know, it's not like that at all. It's really focusing on the people.
The world has changed, and why do you think that these skills are more important now more than ever? Because we've been through other recessions and, you know, global economic challenges. Why now?
Why now? That's a good question. Well, certainly the fact that we can't meet as human beings, you know, makes all of us out there alone in this challenging times. And so I think it's really more important now than ever before because of that. And even our clients are like that. You know, everybody's spread out around the world and we're not meeting. And so we're not getting what we need from a human perspective. So I just really think that that's important. But let me say, though, that I think all top leaders, you know, who are really doing well in, you know, in sales leadership, always focused on their people. Some of them got numbers from their people, you know, through driving, but the top leaders had loyalty and they had a connection with their people, and they knew that they were being supported throughout tough times, good times.
Mm-hmm. Leadership is all about being focused on other people. Like the you know, leaders are the last people to eat.
Yes, it's a good quote.
But
yes.
Sales, often has been the opposite of that. Leaders kind of go first, they stride out, you know, they're the most successful in achieving a target, and it's all about me. And now it's having to change that focus, so it's not about me at all. So I would imagine the transition is really quite difficult for sales leaders that have been so successful in the past.
I would imagine so as well, because it's been such a numbers-driven game in the last 8 to 10 years, you know, like really focusing on the numbers, and things can be measured and people can take your calls and see what you're doing. And you know, it's all about that, but it's not all about that. And again, if you take a look at who are your top performers, unless you're in a hugely transactional type of sale, which does need a lot of activity. But if you are selling to people where you need to, you know, develop a relationship, find out about their business, focus on what their goals and objectives are. It's never really been about the numbers. It's really been about the effectiveness of everything. It's not efficiency then, it's effectiveness. And so to me, that's where the focus should be. How can I help my people be more effective? How can I rush in there and try to save a deal for them? Or, how can I be the great closer of the world? Literally, how can I help my people be better? Because that's the only sustainable model as far as me.
So talking about people, and I know that you've done so much in this area around diversity and pulling forward more women. So how do you think the industry is progressing? Do you think that we're on the right track, or do you think there is so much more to do? And if that's the case, in what areas would have the biggest impact?
I think that there are some industries that are doing well with diversity, but for the most part, they pretty much suck. And let me just be real honest with that. I mean, they say, well, we can't find female candidates. Well, are you looking? And do you think people want to be like you, the slimy, people that you are, that are trying to shove things down people's throat and manipulate them? And have you read your job descriptions?
Yeah.
We're looking for a hunter who's, coming at you and everything. I mean, everything is all screwed up, and it doesn't appeal to women. But women are highly effective in sales. And I know from some research that women perform, that I believe it was Gartner did it, they perform at higher levels than their male counterparts. They stay in a job longer, which, by the way, should be a huge factor. If you're looking at the business aspect of it, it should be a huge thing. You mean, I have 2 people I can hire. They're, about the same in terms of capacity, but the women tend to perform at higher levels, and, they stay longer. So I don't have to, have turnover and have to find somebody else and train them and onboard them and hope that they work out. I mean, there's a huge business case for that. And then you add in the fact about how decisions are made, and you throw diversity in there. And research also shows that from a business perspective, having a diverse group of people allows for faster decisions, believe it or not, and better decisions. I mean, to me, this is a business focused thing. I mean, it's like, let's see, better decisions, faster decisions, higher performance level, lower turnover, less onboarding. It's a business decision. So why don't people do that? Because people hire people who look and sound like them.
Yeah.
And I think something has to be done about it. And let me just say, I am a diversity hire too. I was not brought on board because of my great potential. I mean, I was a high school teacher when I decided to go into sales. And at that time, Xerox had a mandate from the government, the federal government of the United States, that they had to have a workforce that represented the communities that they were in. So interesting, huh? So Chicago's diversity numbers were very different from Minneapolis's, which were very different from Austin, Texas. I mean, and each city had their own diversity numbers that they had to hire. And so Xerox, which sounds really strange, but they didn't think women could sell technical things like copiers.
You use them, but they can't sell.
No, but having to, clear a paper jam. I mean, that was like, they just didn't think that, we were capable of doing that. But within a couple of years of hiring women, when they learned how to look for characteristics in women that were totally different than men, because the question they always ask the guys, what motivates you? And they wanted to hear money.
Yeah.
Money. If it's not money, you're not going to make it. But women didn't say money. They said, I want to do a good job. I want to focus on my customers. I want to make a difference. And that was their motivation that singularly led them to do different. So, within a few years at Xerox, the division I was in, and in my region, 8 out of the top 10 reps were minority and female. Go figure.
Yeah.
This is a business decision. It's not about being so wonderful, which I think is also good to be wonderful and want to be inclusive, but it's about it making a difference from a business perspective.
In the UK, there was the Davis review, and there's an annual survey of women on boards that happens each year. And actually, it's going down rather than going up. It's going in a totally wrong direction. I'm a big supporter of having quotas in place, because it's exactly, that's what brought you in, and then the company understood the success of doing this, but the company wouldn't have done it had they not had a quota in place. And it's really difficult not to hire, not to trust your own instincts, which is to hire like-minded people. And it's, you know, there's more men that are in senior roles that are recruiting, and blah de blah de blah. So, you know, I think that the biggest impact would be quotas. And what I often get a pushback from other women that say, well, you know, I want it to be recruited on merit. Great. More women leave higher education with higher qualifications, and it's from that point that we start to see that you don't get opportunities and things. So they actually have the experience, and as you're absolutely right, it's the different questions you ask, different models that you use. So, you know, maybe we ought to campaign to actually bring back the quota again and, you know, see things move.
I think that it would be really good if companies would set quotas, and we are committed to diversity. It's a good business decision.
Yeah,
it's a business decision. We will be better as an organization. Our world will be better too. You know, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. But then again, I'm not a bald white guy. Here I go again.
Yeah, you seem to have something against bald people, Jill.
No, you know, I mean, people I've been with bald white guys. You know, I love them to death, but there are other ways. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, working from home, many people feel isolated. What strategies would you use to overcome that?
Oh, isolation. I mean, I think you just need to be able to pop on a phone call. And let me just say a phone call, not a Zoom thing, because it's just so intense being on Zoom all day. And to just be in touch with human beings. I mean, I know personally that I have called friends from high school that I haven't talked to in years, just to get out of the business world, to talk to, you know, cousins across the country, and had wonderful conversations that have made me feel connected to the world. And I think we really do need to do that. Another thing I'd suggest, get out for a walk. You know, get out for a walk. Our bodies need the outdoors. We connect better. And if you want to, put in your headphones and call your friends then, and have a good, you know, good meaty conversation. We need to connect as people again. And to me, the isolation is, you know, overwhelming to so many people. And we can't just sit in our places, you know, and say, I'm going to go nuts. We actually have to get out and talk to people. Human.
My sister, who I'm very close to, who's in America, she's extroverted and I'm introverted. People think it's the opposite, because when I'm on stage, it's da-da! Yeah. And then I have to sit in a box somewhere, you know. But I have loved this. I have loved this time. And my sister is just going up. She needs that connection going up the wall. And I've realized how self-sufficient I am. And I think this period has actually taught us more about ourselves that we thought we know, but to a whole nother level of what we need to remain sane and mentally, not only physically, but mentally healthy as well, because it's not always good for introverted people to be happy in this space and stay in their little box. That is not good. And also, I've learned to appreciate other extroverted people, how it's not just they talk a lot. It's absolutely essential to their well-being that they connect. And I've learned that during this period. And whether I have a customer in front of me that is extroverted, really understanding what they need. And that's part of the sales process. I'm giving them what they need to feel comfortable, to feel safe in order to move on. So I've learned a lot being in this period. I don't know what your view is.
I've observed a lot.
Mhm.
I've observed a lot, and it's been interesting. Even my children, let me just say, you talked about your sister. I have a daughter who's introverted and a son who's total extrovert, and the actual opposite. And my daughter is just dying to get back to the office. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Because as an introvert, that was her getting to be with people.
Mm.
And it was able to go and it was her friendship group at work, and now they can't commune, and then she could go home to her apartment and sink in and have a good night. My son, I mean, he's just like boingy, and it's really funny to watch, but he's in again working out of his house, and he and his wife, who's also a total extrovert, are having socially distanced gatherings in their driveway. They're inviting neighbors over all the time to hang out in their driveway and bring your own chair, just because they need it. Neighbors, family, other people, they just need it,
Yeah. I think we're very much more in touch with not only our own needs, but other people's as well. And that's got to be a good thing, just as a human being going forward.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. So Jill, if you're on a desert island on your own, what would you take with you?
What would I take with me? Oh, I'd probably take with me my cell phone.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What would be on your cell phone? Is it to call or to listen to music? What's the thing about the cell phone?
Because I like to learn and to find new things. Be engaged, in terms of what I could do. I could be researching how I could be found. I could be learning new ways to build fires, might be more effective, and it would just give me a chance to keep sharp. And yes, I could maybe send some emails, SOSs, to send them out, but I could read books. I mean, it's like that little thing gives me connection to everything I need.
Yeah.
How to find food when there's only coconut trees around,
Yeah. Well, you could use your phone to order in.
Yeah. Or to figure out 101 ways to make coconut for dinner tonight,
Yeah, exactly. It has been an absolute pleasure. In the show notes, I'm going to be putting in all of your book links and social media links, because I know the listeners will want to get hold of you. I've really appreciated listening to you, and will continue to admire and gush at you from afar, Jill. I'm sorry, but I will. So thank you so much, Jill, for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast.
Really my pleasure. Thank you.